This story is designed to help you to relax. You should be in a comfortable and safe space when you listen. If you like the story, be sure to subscribe to my channel, BC Cocina. Before you listen, we should take some deep breaths. Really feel the air going in and out of your body. Inhale through your nose. Hold it. Exhale through your mouth. Put all of the day's events and worries in a closet in your brain. Close the door. They'll be there tomorrow. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Open your mind to your imagination. Picture yourself ascending stairs, one breath at a time. By the time we're at the top of the stairs, you should be relaxed and ready for the story. Let's start at the bottom of the stairs. Relax all the muscles in your face. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Step on the first step. My name is Maria Carmen Esposito Valdez. At the time of this story, I was in the 5th grade. I was on a shopping trip with my new friend, Mr. Bog. I followed Mr. Bog as he walked along the Halles des Enchanteurs in New Orleans. I was living then in Houston, Texas, and Mr. Bog had brought me to the Halles des Enchanteurs. I didn't know where we were going, and I simply marched behind him. Maria Carmen, since we're in New Orleans, we will stop and see some friends before we go. Oh, okay. Is there another store we're going to? No. These are friends that have a spot in the quarter. A couple of them are graduates of Ilvermorny, to be exact. They were in the choir and in the stage band. Keep up, girl. I walked faster, even though my feet were hurting. We had spent a whole day walking in the French Quarter and in the Wizard's secret neighborhood on the Halles des Enchanteurs. The Halles was accessible through a door in the quarter on Frenchman Street, a door which seemed to any regular passerby to lead to an empty and dilapidated old store. Instead, it opened into an entire neighborhood of restaurants, bookshops, magical creature shops, tea rooms, offices, bars, almost like a secret, very exclusive mirror image of the quarter. 2- and 3-story buildings lined the narrow streets with shops on the first floor. The 2nd and 3rd floor were adorned with wrought iron balconies, arcades where wizards sat in rocking chairs, sipping cool drinks and visiting. The buildings, which seemed to take up the entire, speak to each other across the street sitting on their balconies. Smells of Creole cooking wafted out of some restaurants, while intoxicating incense emanated from others. Many wizards had tents set up on the streets with tablecloth-draped tables, selling potions, amulets, and some selling more simple things that you might see anywhere, like tacos and cheesesteak sandwiches. Halles des Enchanteurs was different than the Nomad Quarter in that the streets were spotlessly clean, serviced by cleaning machines with multiple arms that brushed, mopped, and collected trash on the street. They moved silently, as if by magic, and quietly stepped aside when a wizard approached. The streets gleamed behind them with a clean scent like I had experienced in the laundromat at home. I saw wizards were everywhere, walking around as if it were the most normal thing in the world. They carried wands, walked alone, in couples, and in families. The air was celebratory, joyous, and fun like a festival. One wizard trailed rainbow-colored bubbles as he walked, tapping his walking stick on the cobbles. A beautiful witch with long blue hair was haloed by blue monarch butterflies, a cloud of butterflies that orbited her head and moved with her as she strolled down the street. Another witch had a pair of tiny hummingbirds buzzing around her, so small that at first I thought it was large bees. A man seemed to be on fire. His long cloak, trousers, and head seemed to be ablaze, but his expression was one of complete normalcy. He seemed to like the attention he was getting. A lovely, very small woman with very large eyes, smelling of honeysuckle, walked by, and I realized that she had wings folded on her back. She was walking hand in hand with a small man with dark hair and sharp green eyes. When they passed close by, I could see that their clothes seemed to be sewn from large green leaves, draped and cut to look like modern clothing from afar. I know now they were fairies, little people, of which North and South America have many. I can see them now everywhere, but before I went to Ilvermorny, I could not identify them. Some wizards had a magical creature with them, such as the man with the feathered green serpent draped around his shoulders. He seemed to be speaking to it. One enchantress carried a large Siamese cat in her handbag, its blue eyes watching everyone on the street with interest. Another wizard carried a very large toad, whose eyes were closed as if asleep. The wizards were all polite, all nodding or speaking to Mr. Bog. They were respectful of him and glanced at me to extend their greeting to me as well. They seemed to consider him an important person. Mr. Bog and I had spent the day shopping for both used and new items that I would be needing for Ilvermorny. You see, I had been invited to attend the school in the fall, but I had explained to the assistant principal, Miss Boot, that I had no money or resources to make the trip. I didn't know how I could travel from my home in Houston to the location of the school at Mount Greylock in Massachusetts. She had sent down Mr. Bog to help me to buy the things I would need, but for that we had to travel to New Orleans, since Houston has no wand maker and does not have a neighborhood like Isle des Enchantements, or at least Houston didn't have one in the year in which I was in the 5th grade. I continued to follow Mr. Bog, and we turned into a corner bar. It was open on one side to the street, the garage doors on that side completely rolled up. I wondered if I were allowed to go in since I was a kid, but I stayed quiet and followed Mr. Bog. We moved past the bar to the back. A few patrons were sitting at the bar, but not many people were there. While it was late, the sun was still up, so I thought maybe it got busy later. We approached a door in the back of the long room. Mr. Bog knocked. The door opened right away. The person who answered looked like a very famous singer. It couldn't have been him, I thought. It must be someone that looked like him. He greeted Mr. Bog formally and moved aside for us to go in. The room in the back was a large hall, a 2-story room with what I now know is called a mezzanine. It seemed much too large for the space that was implied by the building from the outside. It looked like a place that could hold hundreds of people. A group of 5 people were sitting in chairs with instruments, guitars, a bass, and one sat behind some drums. One lady had a piano keyboard. Some very large men were sitting not far, but were not holding instruments. They seemed to be waiting for someone or something. I realized that these were bodyguards. I looked again at the faces of these folks with the instruments, and I realized that they were all very famous hip-hop and pop stars. I could identify each one. I knew songs that each one had on the radio. Could these be the people Mr. Bog had said graduated from Ilvermorny? I was struck dumb with shyness. My face was hot from blushing with anxiety. These older, glamorous, famous people spoke to Mr. Bog as an old friend. I was a little girl who lived in a foster home. I was left at a fire station wrapped in a towel hours after I was born. While my foster family was not unkind, I had no real people. I was still wearing my worn-out, stained school uniform and had my equally worn-out black backpack on. What was an insignificant girl like me doing in this room with these stars? I knew knew I was staring, so I forced myself to look at my shoes. The people in the room were more beautiful in person than in their videos. "Mr. Bog, please introduce us to your friend," said the man who had opened the door. For the sake of this story, I will call him Bill. I can't share his real name. You would know it right away. You would know all of their names. Bill is a wizard, yes, but that is not something he shares with the world. Wizards are sworn to secrecy, I learned in Ilvermorny. You never, ever share with no-mages your birthright. The penalties are severe, as you are endangering the entire United States wizarding world. This is Maria Carmen. She's from Houston. She'll be starting in Ilvermorny in the fall. We're gathering her necessities. The group hooted with excitement. Woohoo! Bill and 2 others got up to hug me and shake my hand. Still speechless, I just glanced at them and looked at my feet. They peppered me with questions, seeming all to speak at once. "Did you have your wand? Did you get it at the Calliope wand shop? What did you think of Miss Beauvais? I got my wand from her mother years ago." "What's your wand made of?" "Oh, snallygaster heartstring? That's different." "Are you excited to be going to Ilvermorny? It's the best wizarding school in the world, you know." "Did your parents go there?" "What are their names? Maybe I know them." "Oh, just wait until the sorting ceremony. I hope you get into Horned Serpent. That's where I was." "Nah, man, she needs to be in Wampus. That's where the cool people are." "Oh, really? What about Pukwudgie? What about Thunderbird, y'all?" "You taking a magical creature?" "I had a toad. It was sort of useless." "You need a good coat. It's cold up there in Massachusetts." "Some snow boots, too. You got some of those?" "You taking a broom?" "Friday night Quidditch will be incredible this year, since Hamilton and Peck are starting their senior year." No. I live with no-mages in Houston. I live in a foster home. I never heard of Ilvermorny until I got an email, and then an owl sent me a letter. Mr. Bog is helping me because I don't know any of this stuff, and I don't really have any money. I've never been out of Texas until this trip with Mr. Bog to Louisiana. The woman sitting at the keyboard came nearer. She had to get on one knee to look at me in the eye. She's also quite famous for being a great dancer, having a beautiful voice, and just being one of the most elegant and beautiful women in movies or music or anything to do with entertainment. She crouched on one knee and said, "Maria Carmen, you are one of us. It doesn't matter that you don't know any of the stuff we're talking about, because you will go to Ilvermorny to learn it. That's why you're going. Very few of the other kids starting in the fall will know any more than you. You don't have to be afraid, and you don't have to be shy. Just keep your eyes and ears open and soak everything they teach you up. I can just tell you'll be one of the most powerful witches in the world, and you will work to do good in the world. You will lessen human suffering. I can see it in your eyes. I can't wait to see what you will do, Maria Carmen. It will be incredible." Once again, my face burned as I felt my blush travel up to my cheeks. I was very unused to this kind of attention. I was seriously doubtful of what she was saying, but it was nice of her to say those things. Mr. Bog cut in. "I'm on my way back to Houston with Maria Carmen, and then I will be on my way back to Ilvermorny. I have a letter for you from the headmaster." He handed the letter to the man who had opened the door. "The rest of you I hope to see at homecoming this year. Goodbye," said Mr. Bog, who then turned on his heel to walk toward the door. Wait, Mr. Bog," said one of the stars who had a guitar in his lap. "Let us sing her at least one song before she goes." Without answering, Mr. Bog turned around, dragged a chair over, and sat down. I stayed standing. The man behind the drums counted off, and the music began. I looked even more intently at my feet in embarrassment. These famous most important people were playing a song for me? It couldn't be right. But soon the music took me to a different world. It wrapped around me like a warm coat. I smelled vanilla, then the ocean, then pine trees. I couldn't help but to begin to sway to the music a little bit, but I was too shy to look up. The words of the song were about being different, being special, and feeling great about that. The words said that being your true self is the most power you can have, that accepting yourself and loving yourself was the greatest magic there was. The words said that every person has a purpose and has specific talents. People have to find those talents and then use them for the good of everyone, to the best of their ability. Sharing love was what magic was really about. When the music ended, I realized that I was crying. My face was still down, and the tears were spilling on the floor. The whole experience had been too much for me. The lady at the keyboard approached Mr. Bog and whispered in his ear. She handed something to him that he put in his hoodie pocket. I thought I should speak up. Thank you, everyone. I can't believe I met you all. I will remember this day for the rest of my life. Thank you. Mr. Bog and I walked to the door of the large room and were back in the bar. We stepped out on the open side and were back in the quarter. Mr. Bog seemed to be walking toward the Mississippi, and I followed.